Hey folks, it's Alex Blanker and I'm back at the kitchen table. Today, let's talk about the July 2022 real estate market for the city of Peterborough. So the numbers just clocked in. The average sold price was around $595 for July of 2022. It's $595,619 to be exact. And when you compare that to June of 2022, we were sitting at $632,818 back in June. So another decline of around $30,000. It's pretty comparable. It's a bit of a medium jump compared to what we've been seeing over the last year as values have started declining. In terms of new listings, we saw 196 new listings in July. So those are down as well compared to June. This is a pretty big jump. I mean, it was 259 new listings in June. So it's down about 60 new listings, which is a pretty big jump when we only got 196. It's a big change. So not a whole lot of new listings. People are not selling their home as often as they did in June. In terms of sales, it's reflected there as well. We only saw a little bit of a decline here. We came in at 98 sales for the month of July. So, that is crazy, compared to what we've been seeing over the year. 98 is pretty low. We haven't really hit double digits since January. So 98 sales for the city of Peterborough in July 2022. That's down from 109 sales in June. So last month we had 109. So we're only down about 10 sales. It's not really major, but definitely the buyer and seller sentiment has declined. You don't have a lot of people that are looking to cash out or a lot of buyers that are really craving that buying frenzy like they did March 2022 and earlier. And you see that really in the days to sell. I mean, we're up to 23 days to sell, and that's July 2022. That's actually down from last month. It took 27 days on average to sell last month. And, I think we touched on it last podcast, but that was really due to the north end. It really drove those numbers up. The average days on market in the north end were 45 days in June. So that's come down again. We're kind of sitting on average here at 23, and that's really reflected in all of the markets in Peterborough. In terms of month of inventory, this is a statistic that really determines what kind of market we're in. In terms of a balanced market, you're really sitting at 3 and up. Down to about 6, and then anything really above the 5-6 months of inventory is a buyer's market, so they've got tons to choose from. Anything below 3 is a seller's market, so we were really sitting there. I mean, for the last 2 years during the pandemic, there was not a whole lot of inventory compared to the absorption rate, and that is directly what months of inventory measures. So we're up a little bit from June. It's only really a graph that I can tell this on. They only deal with whole numbers in the statistics, so we're still at 3 months of inventory, but I'd say we're sitting around 3.2 or 3.3 months of inventory for July, and that's up from probably around 3 or closer to 3 in June. So the inventory is going up slowly. So in terms of overall change, month to month, it was really more of the same. I mean, we did see that decline continue, around $30,000 decline. So it's not huge, but it's not minimal. It's starting to maybe flatten out a little bit in terms of the decline curve, but it still continues to decline. The days on market, maybe a couple of buyers are getting back into the market as they're hearing things are a little bit easier as the playing field really starts to level out. These buyers that kind of sat on the sidelines during the overbidding might be getting back into the market, and that's really what's causing these days on market to kind of decline, but they're still pretty high. I mean, compared to what we've been seeing the last 2 years, it's not pretty high on average. It's more compared to the last 2 years. So 23 days on market, and that's down from last month. So properties are selling quicker on average. So now if we break it down by neighborhood, so let's start with Central Peterborough. So Central Peterborough had quite a lot of activity last month. This month, not as much activity. So last month there were 65 listings. This month that was almost cut in half. We had 34 listings. In terms of sales, we saw those take another decline year over year. Last month we had 31 sales in Central Peterborough. This month we only had 20. In terms of average price, it took a pretty big hit compared to last month. So last month, because of all the activity, the average price was $620,000, 521, whereas the average price in July, just a month later, was $544,420 for the average price. And what's pretty nuts is the comparison between last July and this July. So the average price is only up 1.5% from last year. So not really a lot at all. I mean, you could say that's really a flat line year over year, which you don't really typically see. In terms of days on market, we saw those at 24 days on market. That's up about 5 days from last month, where the days on market were 19. But in terms of year over year, we saw a 71% increase from last July. So those 24 days on market, that's a 71% increase from last July. In terms of Peterborough East, the gorgeous East City, we saw more of the same. I mean, not a whole lot of activity in East City again. It's pretty comparable to last month. We saw 20 listings last month, and in July 2022, we saw 19. There were 8 sales in July, and there were 10 sales in June. So really more of the same. We did see a slight decline in the average price. The average price for July clocked in at $584,343, and the average price in July was $637,790. So it took a bit of a decline, around $50,000 or so. And the days on market, those also took a little bit of a decline as well. So the properties were moving a little bit faster. And again, this could be a representation of either demand or the prices starting to adjust. These prices could start continuing to go down, the list price that is, and that's causing more buyers to get out there because now that list price is really in their budget. So it could be a combination of demand increasing or list price coming down. I think personally it's a combination of both. But back on track here, 16 days on market for Peterborough East in July 2022. 20 days on market for Peterborough East in June 2022. In terms of comparing this market, July 2022 to July 2021 for Peterborough East, listings are up 5%. Sales are down about 62%. The average price actually went up. So you got 7% or so on your investment. If you bought the same house on average last year, it's gone up 7% on average. Again, not a huge sample size, so take that with a grain of salt. And then days on market's gone up about 14%. In terms of the north end of Peterborough, so this one was a bit crazy last month. We saw 45 days on market, and it's a bit of an outlier. That calmed down a lot this month for July 2022. We saw 18 days on market, so not as extreme as it was last month. In terms of listings, pretty similar to last month. We saw 47 listings in July, and in June, we saw 51 listings. Sales, again, pretty comparable. We saw 21 sales in July and 18 sales in June. The average price took another decline. This is pretty consistent. We had $605,919,000 for the average price in July. And that's down about $45,000 from last month. Last month, it was $649,443. And again, I touched on days on market. We're at 18 days on market compared to last month when we were at 45 days on market. But the days on market are up 63% from last year. So properties are not moving as quickly as they did last year. That's a pretty consistent theme that we're seeing in these market reports. The average price is actually down 4% from last year. Sales are up 16.6% and listings are up around 96%. In terms of Peterborough South, so the south end of Peterborough, again, very similar to last month. So last month we saw 21 listings. This month, 28 listings. So 7 new listings compared to last month. Sales, we saw 8 in July and we saw 7 back in June. So again, very, very similar. And the average price is quite similar as well. This is actually one that increased by about $4,000. We had $560,125 for the average price Peterborough South in July. In June, the average price was $556,500. In terms of days on market, again, pretty much the exact same. 15 days on market for June and 14 days on market for July. So, I mean, it's gone down a day, but it's pretty much the exact same. This one really didn't seem to change month over month. The Bank of Canada did increase rates in mid-July, I believe. And there is another meeting scheduled for September 7th. We got the month of August off. So let's see how that impacts the market for August, because we don't have that interest rate increase for that month. So let's see what happens to the real estate values. Will they continue to go down? Will they level out a bit? What will be the change there? Stay tuned. We'll check that out at the end of August. In terms of the West End, the West End of Peterborough saw a little bit of a change. We didn't see as many listings as we did in June. So in June, we saw 69 new listings. In July, there were only 37. Sales stayed the same, 25 sales in June and 26 sales in July 2022. So again, listings cut down, but sales have stayed relatively the same. So, the rate at which these properties are getting sold compared to the amount of new listings, that ratio actually declined and decreased comparing July to June. In terms of average price, we saw that take a little bit of a hit. $713,604 for July, and their average price for the Peterborough West End in June was $759,126 for the average price. Days on market, this actually jumped up about a week. So we had 11 days on market for June 2022. That jumped up to 19 days on market for July. So it's taking longer for these properties to sell. There aren't as many new listings. The sales have stayed the same, but it's taking longer for them to sell and the prices have declined. The average price has declined. That's what's happening in the West End. Comparing that year over year, you've got listings are down 9%, sales are down 35%, average price is down around 2%, and the days on market have shot up 72%. So that's a pretty consistent theme. You've got your price dropping or staying relatively the same, and days on market are continuing to increase comparing to last year. And this is a sign of the real estate market starting to shift. We're starting to see that correction. We're starting to see prices drop. We're starting to see it leveling out. We're starting to see affordability come back. Now, again, the interest rates have gone up, so it's really hurting those first-time home buyers that now have to qualify at a higher amount. It makes it harder for them to buy, which is difficult because they were the ones that primarily suffered during the overbidding. However, as affordability becomes more realistic, we can adjust those interest rates accordingly. The Bank of Canada will adjust the interest rates accordingly. They have responded to the inflation crisis by increasing these interest rates, and it's definitely impacting the housing crisis. It's definitely decreasing the housing price. The price of housing is going down as these interest rates are going up. Let's see how that continues in the next couple of years. As affordability becomes more realistic, will they start to drop the interest rates and lower the interest rates and make it easier for those first-time buyers again? So I hope that helped, guys. If you have any questions about real estate, please feel free to reach out. And until next time, my name's Alex Blunkart, and this is The Kitchen Table. And I'll see you next time, guys. Take care.